Panasonic, the heart of your system.
Today's the day that Corsair launches the Carbide 678C case. And as soon as I saw this case, I immediately thought fractal design. There's kind of echoes of the design of fractal all over the place, particularly the R6, a case that we like a great deal. But that case is now relatively old, and yet here we are, the brand new Corsair. Why do I say it is reminiscent of fractal? So this is obviously the white version, but there are bits of black, fractals into doing that. You can, if you choose, remove this magnetic top mesh panel and substitute this noise deadening panel, again held in place with magnets, like thus. It's quite angular, again very fractal. It's got a large glass window on the side, although Corsair goes to some pains to point out, try and open it, it's quite strong magnets, that it is hinged. They're saying that's one point of differentiation between them and some other brands' cases. The other thing is this case comes with 3 140mm fans, but they are PWM fans, plus you get a PWM hub, which has 3 empty spaces, supports 6 fans in total, so the 3 plus 3 more should you choose. That is another point of differentiation. I'm actually getting quite bored of the number of cases I see that have sort of reasonable quality fans but not PWM. This is a relatively expensive case. It's £180, one penny under, 179.99, and that puts it way over the current price of the Fractal Design R6, which is now down to £110 amazingly. Recently it was 130, now 110. The Dark Base 700 from Be Quiet, that's a relatively expensive case at 180. There's a limited edition white version, which obviously is a direct comparison to this. And Phanteks Evolve X is £200. That's an expensive case, but that has an awful lot of bits and pieces going on, including integrated RGB. Now, at the moment I'm looking at the empty case, and I haven't done the dirty on you and built into it and pulled it apart and kind of pretending I don't know what's coming. I genuinely don't know what the build is going to go like with this case at the moment. However, it does not appear to have any form of RGB built in whatsoever. The fans do not appear to be RGB. I don't see any connections for RGB. And the front panel I/O on the top, the buttons, no RGB mentioned there. So this is looking like it's an understated case, presumably at that price, aiming for the high-ish end. And as I say, to my mind, because of the lack of RGB, assuming I'm correct, fractal design and Be Quiet territory. But enough of my speculation. Let's get on with the build. That's the guts of the system installed, so ASRock X299 motherboard, Skylake X processor, Vengeance RGB memory from Corsair. I haven't yet done the cooler. Now here's the funny thing, when I was doing the B-roll with the fan spinning in the empty case, it suddenly occurred to me that the front fan intakes from the front, the rear fan exhausts to the rear, but this top fan is intaking. That's the PC finished, and I've chosen to use a Corsair H115i liquid cooler in the roof. That's a 280mm all-in-one. I've retained the optical drive bay, not that I'm using an optical drive, just to confirm everything fits, and it does, but it's tight. Were I to move the ODD bay, clearly I'd have much more space. Anyway, initial impressions when you look at it at this angle is it's perfectly appealing. Corsair makes the point about this case that it's understated and sort of sophisticated, and yeah, sure, absolutely no problems there whatsoever. The only light on the case is this little blue kind of purplish status LED there. I've added this Corsair Dominator Platinum RGB memory inside just to give it a bit of RGB bling, and also frankly to help the video, because it gives a little bit of illumination, otherwise it kind of all gets a bit like a black hole inside. But initial impressions are absolutely fine in terms of appearance. The build, it wasn't difficult, but it is a little bit bitty in places. I'll just take off the glass panel and turn the case. Putting all the big bits and pieces in is dead straightforward. They just drop in place, no trouble. Cable management in the front side of things, not particularly difficult. There are a reasonable number of cable management holes, so you can feed cables through in a reasonably straightforward fashion. The back is slightly more tricky, partly because there are 2 stealth drive bays on the back, and also you've got 3 SSD caddies. So if you're populating those, it means that the space for cables to run is limited. But Corsair hasn't chosen to use any hook and loop straps, which would be straightforward. There are plenty of anchor points for cable ties, so actually securing the cable is not particularly difficult, but there is one natural place for the cables to run, and at the moment they're pushed very slightly away from that. There are plenty of drive bays. You've got these 4 caddies here, which can be moved to any of these 6 positions by releasing thumb screws around this side. Again, you'll need access. You don't want cables trailing across those bays and thumb screws, unless of course you move the caddies once when you're doing the build and never touch them ever again. 2 stealth bays, 3 SSDs, loads of storage should you want that many drives. Frankly, it seems excessive to me, but if you're looking at this case as the understated content creator type of thing, absolutely fine. My personal feeling is that many content creators use external storage in the form of NAS. I cannot think of anybody who's going to use all of these caddies, but I'm not going to criticise Corsair for that. Having too many caddies that you can simply remove, it probably doesn't add a great deal to cost. It gives you options, that's fine. Where I do run up against a big question mark with this case, however, is the airflow. So, in stock configuration, the front fan draws air in, the top fan draws air in, the rear fan expels air. This front fan is clearly blocked by the door. Air, as far as I can work out, comes through the floor of the case. It's a similar story with the roof. Now, in the configuration I got it now, with the top fan, or the fan that was in the top, and the front, those 2 fans are now at the front drawing in air. They're both blocked by this door. I've put the H115 in with the fans expelling air through the roof, and I'm wondering whether I should have actually used it as intake, which is, to my mind, counterintuitive. But that might have been the better move, and the rear fan exhausting. As things stand, however, it works perfectly well. Temperatures with my Skylake X 8-core processor and my Vega 64 graphics card are perfectly okay. I do not have a problem with the temperatures at stock clocks in the case with this gauze filter installed. It's actually surprisingly good. I thought it might bake. I thought I might have to reverse fans, but no, it's actually okay. On the other hand, if you replace the mesh filter with the solid top panel for aesthetics because you want it all closed up and looking all sleek and smooth, then temperatures do rise. They do not rise with these components at stock clocks as much as you might think. We're talking 3, maybe 4 degrees. The single largest temperature rise I saw comparing the mesh filter with the solid top, 7 degrees, which is not a major cause for concern, and we're well inside the thermal limits of the components, well inside. So no problems there. What you do, however, suffer from when you put the solid top panel on there and therefore block these fans is that once the temperature curve hits a certain point and the fans want to ramp up just to moderate temperature, the fans suddenly spin up, you've got a tiny little air gap, and as a result the noise levels go up significantly. There is airflow in this case, it's just not quite in the way that I expected, and it certainly is not an airflow case. Of that you can be absolutely clear. So if you want to overclock, if you want high-end components running at high clock speed drawing a load of power, this is probably not the case for you. Which is not the end of the world, because Corsair doesn't market this as an airflow case. They are talking about stylish, understated. And it is absolutely that. Nonetheless, I've built a solid performing PC in this case, and it works perfectly okay. So if you take it on its own terms, it's fine. If you want a high airflow case, I suspect you'll be sorely disappointed. The solid top panel to me is just a mistake. I don't see any reason for it. That mesh filter is all you need. If there was some alternate approach to the front, for example a perforated front door, I think that'd be even better. However, as things stand, this solid door is what you've got. So that is a large part of the styling, and it's also a large part of the performance of this case. Pricing is a problem. This case has clearly been set up as a direct rival to the Fractal Design Define R6. Now, when the Define R6 came out, and it's a case that's now about 1.5 years old, initially it had Type A USB, then they updated the I/O panel and it included Type C. This has Type-C. The thing is, Fractal and the retailers knew perfectly well this 678 was coming. They knew a while ago, a few weeks back, and as a result, the Define R6 has been discounted. Now, originally it was priced around the £130, £135 mark, which I thought at the time was a little bit steep, but was perfectly okay. I like that case. It's now been discounted heavily, and you can buy it for about £110, which is obviously better. The snag is Corsair is coming in at one penny under £180 with this case, 179.99. Corsair always charges a premium. It's like a bad joke to say the Corsair tax, but it is a fact of life. And that was actually the response from a number of readers, viewers, when I reviewed this very memory here, which is this perfectly decent memory. They just said it costs how much? It's a fact of life, and basically you just need to live with it. That's all there is to it. In fact, I think that's what I said in that review. So you're paying a premium no matter what to buy the 678C versus the R6, but now the R6 has been discounted, the disparity is even greater. If you can take the price out of the equation and you're not fussed about restricted airflow, the 678C is absolutely fine. But to most people, either or both of those points will be a big deal. As a case, it's perfectly competent, but it's been dressed up with these panels to give it a certain aesthetic, and in terms of airflow it causes a problem. The final question to address: would I buy the 678C with my own money? And the honest answer is no, probably not. On the other hand, if this case remains with me, and it probably will, would I use it in a future build? And the honest answer is yes, I probably will. It's a perfectly decent case. It looks smart. There are instances where you want a case that isn't all blinging in your face. This fits that particular bill. I don't think there's any chance I'd use that solid top panel. I'll leave the mesh in place, but it does a decent job. It has a good I/O panel. The components go in nicely. You can manage the cables reasonably well. It does have the option of plenty of drives, and it has an optical drive bay. I personally do not use optical media. I haven't used optical media in I don't know how long now. Certain people want optical media, and that's therefore a good thing. So overall, I'm not won over by the 678C. I can see its strengths. I actually quite like it. I just wouldn't particularly want to buy it. That might be a subtle distinction, but it's an important distinction. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the bell button, subscribe to Kit Guru. Will let you know about new videos as they become available. I'm Leo Ward for Kit Guru. This is the Corsair Carbide 678C.